Right, you horrible lot. I was too young for national service, but I was in the cadets. We wore the uniform, that would have been great for you. No class, no race, no religion. Dewberry, pay attention. 1 in 6 Britons never mix with somebody outside their own class. Nearly half of us don't know somebody of a different race. Ah, Ferrari.
Yes, sir.
What would a year of national citizen service done for you when you were 16?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Shabby.
Sir.
I know you won't want this, but let's bribe them. Let's give them an allowance. Let's give them a place on Love Island, for all I care. But this would be the making of our young people. Doesn't have to be military. If they get through it at 16, give them the vote. If they refuse, they don't get to vote till they're 21. As you were...
So, just to confirm, Trevor, the militaristic authoritarian, you are actually talking about compulsory national service.
Yes, this is me, Rachel. I think every young person should have to play some role in the community. I don't necessarily mean they've got to be in a trench, but they can do something in the community, help old people, do something in the environment, but it has to be mandatory.
See, I don't understand how you would look at this nation's 16-year-olds and what they're facing now. So if they're at school, they're over-tested. If they're not at school, they're underpaid. They're looking at a future with a climate crisis, which we don't show any sign of dealing with. They're looking at a future where they're not going to get secure, stable employment. You know, the chances of them having precarious employment are high. The chances of them being able to afford their own home are very, very slim. So you look at all the things that young people have to deal with in this country today, and that's your solution? I just think that a country that in peacetime can find no better task for its youth than compulsory national service has really lost its way.
Yeah, but you're missing part of the point of what young people today are missing. They can't solve the housing problem tomorrow. But what we do know is that too many of our young people never get to meet somebody who is not like them, never meet anybody outside of their social circle. That when we try to do this is now 15, 16 years ago when I chaired the Commission for Racial Equality. Basically what we did is we took kids from all around the country away for a summer camp in Cumbria. They loved it, because for the first time, we're talking about people from the northeast, they had never met a Muslim before that camp. It changed their lives.
Did you force them to do it?
No, it was voluntary.
So that's quite a big difference.
But we won't get it to happen unless every child has this opportunity.
How long for? How long would they serve, Trevor?
Well, the people who are now prompting this are talking about maybe a couple of months or even 6 months. Rory Stewart, I think, has promoted the idea of several months.
I think I was nervous when I saw you dressed like that. Anyway. I was nervous as you...
this is the real me.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the real me. I now feel able to share with you.
We always had a feeling it was.
Just think of all the high-profile jobs you've had, and there you are. No, but when you started to, because I thought it was, as Rachel, I thought it was just the military. But no, I think it's a very good idea. We've got to work out what they do as regards their GCSEs to their A levels. These young people. But what absolutely sold it to me, so I completely applaud the idea. And I didn't know those shocking statistics that too many of our young people don't mix with different skin colours or different faiths. And we are speaking at the end of a week where in London we have seen, and I know this is an unfortunate word, a huge spike in fatal stabbings and other attacks involving a lot of, not all, but a lot of young people. If this gives them some sense of discipline, it has to be a good idea.
In Denmark, where they have a year, beg your pardon, peacetime military service, what the research there showed is it brought down the likelihood of somebody who'd been through that committing a crime in the 5 years after by 43%.
I'm signing up. Where do I sign? You got me.
I like the fact that this crime statistic you just mentioned, I saw that. It does seem to reduce crime where it's been trialled. Macron's trying it now in France. He's introducing civic national service. He did start by introducing what we were all worried about here that you were going to say when you came out in the military uniform. Macron initially wanted to make it military service, but the armed forces of France said they weren't too happy with that idea. So now it's civic service. I think you mentioned, Rachel, climate, for example. There could be a way to do this where, for example, the young 16-year-olds check what particular national civic service they'd like. If you care about climate change and the crisis, you check a box that says, I'm going to do something for the environment in Britain or pollution, and you go to a specific type of civic service for that. If it's, for example, you care about, for example, you're in an inner city area let's say you're in Tower Hamlets and you've never been to Cumbria. Now, growing up, that resonates with me because I did that. My school took me to Cumbria for about 3 or 4 times, and it's a memory that will never leave me. I never had the opportunity to ride horses. I never had the opportunity to climb cliffs or to go through caves. And we did it in the Lake District. And we met all sorts of people. And these are memories that stick with me as some of the happiest of my life. So I think if you're, say, in Tower Hamlets, there are people that have never left that borough and they've never met somebody who, for example, is not from the Bangladeshi background. I think this is really important that they end up mixing with people in other outer areas and not inner city. So you could pick that one, or you could pick the social care crisis and say that when you're young, maybe you want to look after people that are suffering from ill health and are at home and need carers.
When I was a kid, I mean, my life was bounded by 2 tube stations, Wood Green and Turnpike Lane, which are less than a mile apart. That was my world.
Yeah.
And part of what I think this can do is open up a new world to young kids. And on the cost issue, the Army spent £495 million on a recruitment drive with an outsourcer, which has not worked.
No.
They've basically thrown a lot of the money away. Frankly, I'd rather spend a couple of $100 million on this experiment.
Was that all those edgy adverts?
No. That was an outsourced recruitment project,
Was
and
it
they were
not the
5
adverts?
years late,
Right.
delivering even the most basic of recruitment websites. So
Wow.
that was just, for me,
something
yet
else.
another
Yeah.
example of public spending wastage. But if I pick up on you, I've got a few points to make, Trevor. My first one, did I hear you right, that you want to make this mandatory, and the punishment, if they refuse, is you're going to stop them voting until they're 21?
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you think, excuse my French, but do you think anyone's going to give a
Oh!
age? If you say, if I go mooching around, I didn't vote till I was 30 years of age. If you'd have said to me, you young lady, if you don't do this, you're not going to vote, I'd go, bothered, not. So first of all,
Took away someone's right to vote, they would be bothered.
well, no,
whether they had or not
actually, you
before.
would be surprised. You would be surprised. There is a huge amount of disengagement amongst young people, and the people that would benefit from the people, you know, the programs that you're talking about, it would be, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but unfortunately, I'm probably going to end up being. The kids that are in these gangs are the kids that would benefit most, I would imagine, from doing a programme such as yours. Those kids,
not
whether you
voting.
like it or
They're
not,
not voting.
if you say to them, mate, listen, if you don't go do this, you're not going to vote, they will laugh you out of town.
Have you
So that's my first point.
ever dealt with a teenager? The greatest thing that you can do with a teenager is say, I'm not going to let you do such and such. Even if they never
Not
wanted to
teenage-
do it before,
Not when it comes
they
to
would
voting,
knock down your
Trevor.
door to go
Not
and
when
do
it comes to voting.
I agree with
But-
Michelle on this one, not on the voting
So
thing.
that's my first
Yeah.
point. I think, you know, if you want to make something mandatory, by all means, but come on now, get some incentives that are going to work. And then my second thing is there's this great programme called, by the Prince's Trust called Team, and it's a 12-week programme, and what they do is they put people out into the community, you do a community project, you do a 2-week residential programme where you're mixing and doing activities, you do work experience, they help you with English and maths, you get a CV helping, and then you get a mentor at the end of it. Those programmes are massively effective. Where I think military might work, and again, this is me probably being horrible and stereotypical, when I think about these kids that are getting into gangs and running around stabbing each other, I would like, as part of their punishment, to be to shout to them that they are forced to go on a programme like you. But then I contradict myself and think, well,
Like
why
you.
should the army have to, why should the army have to
like
deal
this
with
one.
these squirrels?
That's enough punishment. Look, I mean, you know, we can talk about how this is done, but the fundamental point for me is that what we do at the moment is that once children are free of school, we basically just completely forget anything that would make them feel or compel them to feel part of a community and have some responsibility to that community. And we just basically spend a huge amount of money later picking up the pieces of not having done that.
Share your sentiment, but I think you need to go back to the drawing board on some of your points, young man. Right, you may not be willing to admit it, but I bet most of us, at some point over the last 3 years, thought that we could do a better job than Theresa May negotiating Brexit. Well, definitely one there. One person who thinks that he could have rolled with it and not looked back in anger is former Oasis frontman Liam Gallagher. Earlier this week, he tweeted, "My name is Liam Gallagher and I've got 4 beautiful children and I've dabbled in drugs over the years. I've had many number 1s. Now send me the keys to number 10 and I'll sort this pile of out. Why me? Why not?" He then followed up with, Liam meant, come on, you know, I mean, maybe You could argue Britain's relationship with Brussels is a lot like Oasis, broken up. Well, Liam, we say, don't risk crying your heart out by missing out on the opportunity to throw your hat in the ring. There'd certainly be a... if you won. And for that, you are our straight talker of the week. That's all we've got time for this week. I'm sure some of you will be pleased. But don't forget, you can join our debate. Just search for The Pledge on Facebook and Twitter. And now you can listen to us on the go with Apple Podcasts. You lucky things. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
And me.